What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, and we're here for another Ring of Honor TV review, episode number 78, an extremely lengthy episode of ROH, as we had back-to-back 2-hour episodes. Now, I will say, I do know that AEW All In is this weekend. It was brought up several times during the course of this episode. We even had 3 commercials play for it. And I know there's a lot, like I said, there's going to be a lot going on in the course of this weekend. So if you're a little bit, don't have the time to watch as much wrestling as you would like to, but you want to check out ROH, I would recommend you check out the opening match and the main event, because there's a good hour portion of this episode that was mainly squash matches. So if you want my advice, watch the opening match and 100% watch the main event. There's definitely good stuff sprinkled in between, but there is an hour-long period of matches that were squash matches. Now, I'm not going to waste y'all's time with this opening segment. This is, again, prior to the TV review, but we do have new tag team champions in ROH that were crowned last Saturday at Collision, that being Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara defeating the Undisputed Kingdom. And like I said, I've had almost a week to think about it, and I do have a lot of thoughts on it. But again, I don't really want to waste your time. So if you want to know like my fully in-depth thoughts, leave a comment and I will respond to it with that. But I just think the main thought process that I have is, when you think of ROH, you don't really think of Dustin Rhodes, and you definitely probably don't think of Sammy Guevara. They only had one match teaming together prior to this tag team title victory. It's just a very obscure decision to go with these two as your ROH tag team champions, but at the end of the day, this reign might not last long, and hell, they might put on a good reign and good matches together, and this whole conversation is pointless. But like I said, I do have a lot of thoughts on it. If you want to know, I'll let you know in the comments. But Dustin Rhodes is a double champion in ROH, which again, extremely obscure to say. And in our opening contest this week, he teams with all of his tag team champion partners as it is an 8-man tag: Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, and the Von Erichs versus the Undisputed Kingdom and the Dark Orders, Alex Reynolds and John Silver. A bit of a bit of an add-on to how last week's episode ended, because the Undisputed Kingdom and Dark Order attacked Dustin Rhodes and Von Erich in their main event 6-man tag team match. And this matchup tonight, our opening contest, no entrances, immediate action as the brawl goes on inside and outside of the ring. Once the bell rings, Alex Reynolds and Ross Von Erich are the first 2 legal competitors. Dustin Rhodes finds himself trapped in his opponent's corner even after the Kingdom and Dark Order are arguing with one another. Rhodes kicks out of 2 after a Taven lion salt. Rhodes is able to tag in Sammy after Reynolds accidentally knocks Taven down. A pair of moonsaults, one hit on Reynolds, leads to nothing. We get several pinfall attempts that are broken up. Evil Uno, who is not one of the legal competitors, is at ringside, and he gets involved several times, distracted the referee long enough for the Kingdom and Dark Order to low blow all of their opponents. The brawl continues with all 8 men, involving Taven doing a dive to the outside and Sammy Guevara also doing a dive to the outside. Marshall applies an Iron Claw onto Silver and then slams him after he passes out and wins the matchup via pinfall, leading to the Von Erichs, Dustin Rhodes, and Sammy Guevara being victorious. It is weird, because I realized this during the course of this match, that a lot of times when we get like 8-man or even 10-man multi-man tag matches, that I don't take a lot of notes, because it's a lot of times very unorganized and a lot happens, where I took a lot of notes for this match and I find myself enjoying the matchup. So that's why I recommend you watched this matchup. As our following matchup is another a multi-man tag, this time being a 6-man tag: the Cage of Agony versus Serpentico, Fuego del Sol, and Atlantis Jr. Now, a somewhat side note, I'm not going to take long with this, but Brian Cage is a known X-Men fan. He's several times had cosplays of the X-Men, and several times a lot of his attires are X-Men themed, and it makes it a little bit obscure because there are several other people in ROH that have X-Men themed attires, that being the Infantry and Trish Adora, and again, that they use those attires tonight. So it's weird that two separate groups and entities use X-Men themed gear, but this is the best time to be an X-Men fan, with X-Men 97 having such a great season, and Deadpool and Wolverine, several other X-Men things happen. So if there's time to do it, I guess this is the best time to do it. And members of the ROH roster are using that to their advantage. Now, again, this matchup is the Cage of Agony versus Serpentico, Fuego del Sol, and our TV champion, Atlantis Jr. Serpentico and Toa start the match off. Though frequent tags are made, this mainly changes up once Cage slings Fuego around the ring. Atlantis Jr. sparks some energy for his team once he is tagged in, leading to the three masked men hitting dives onto their opponents. This does not last long once Cage hits a drill claw on Serpentico, and the Cage of Agony win the matchup. Also, the Cage of Agony, Gates of Agony and Brian Cage, have only lost once in Ring of Honor, but I do not know if that one loss was last week, because I thought that it was a double DQ, so a very great trio in Ring of Honor history. Now, Abaddon versus Alejandro Lion. Abaddon provides a fast attack early. Lion hits a nice super kick with little effect. Abaddon hits a Widow's Peak and Black Dahlian to win the matchup. As now we go into the tag team division. MXM versus the Pillars of Destiny. MXM have a promo earlier promoting their matchup tonight, and they did not know who their opponents were going to be when the Pillars of Destiny, which I will not lie to you, I do not know who they are, and their names were not, besides their tag team name, their names weren't actually said, but they interrupt the promo of MXM while they're striking a pose, and MXM try to freeze. That way, you know, they are kind to avoid things. So we did get an MXM promo, and as they're interrupted by their opponents, the Pillars of Destiny. Hunter Gray of the Pillars of Destiny and Mansoor start the matchup off. This is a nice showcase for MXM, including touching tips several times, super kicks, Mace hitting a double choke slam, and Mace posing while Mansoor dives to the outside. This follows both men hitting a double pose on the ramp, and then them winning the matchup by hitting the center fold. I'm glad that the fans of ROH, and I guess of wrestling in general, enjoy the MXM collection. Next, we have Lee Moriarty speaking after his matchup last week where he defeated Action Andretti, and he reiterates that he's going to run the Pure division and lead a Pure Renaissance. He is also joined by his faction member, Shane Taylor, who he is the leader of their group, but he wants to lead by action, and lead by action and lead by example, and he feels that is difficult to do because he does not have any gold while Moriarty does, and that he reiterates that he will be getting some championship gold, specifically targeting Mark Briscoe, which he has said that several times in several promos for the past couple of months. As now we do get a Pure Rules matchup, this one being Angelico versus Aaron Solo. Angelico applies an ankle lock, leading to Solo's first rope break attempt, and then applies another ankle lock very quickly afterwards, using up Solo's second rope break attempt. Frustrated by this, Solo uses a closed fist and is issued a warning. Solo is pushed into the ropes and holds onto him using his third and final rope break attempt. Another ankle lock is applied onto Solo with him reaching for the ropes, and he is in the ropes, but that does not matter because he used all three rope break attempts, and he taps out soon afterwards, with Angelico putting on a great performance in his first Pure Rules match, which comes into play a little bit later. Trish Adora versus Erica Lee. Trish provides a dominant performance, capped off with a massive lariat Tubman for the win. Extremely quick match with, again, the highlight. It was a great lariat and the X-Men gear that I mentioned earlier. The Righteous are backstage, and they said that it has been a while since we have seen them in Ring of Honor, and that they have been in part of Ring of Honor's history for a long time, and they have seen a lot of names come and go, and people change, and etc. And then Lance Archer joins in with them to remind everybody that everybody dies, which is his quote. Commander versus KM is our next matchup. Commander has to use his speed advantage because KM has a significant size advantage. He is slowed down by KM for a couple moments, but speeds it up with a springboard and a rope walk moonsault to win the matchup. We got several squash and quick matchups throughout this episode, and it just felt like they were in the same hour block. So that is why I'm going through these very quickly, because they were quick matchups. Next one of those was EJ Ndoka versus Dion Russman. Ndoka is fired up by there not being a code of honor adhered to. A nice shoulder tackle, lariat, and big splash by Ndoka leads to him winning the matchup with the Exodus drop, which is a pretty massive choke slam. The Iron Savages and Jack Jameson face the trio of Jay Alexander, Colton Charles, and Dario Giallo, which is a very interesting name. Jameson and Alexander start the match off with, again, back-to-back matches with no code of honor. Giallo takes a trip to Titty City, and the match ends after Boulder hits a splash off of the top rope. Marina Shafir versus Tiara James is up next, and Shafir starts the matchup on the mat, wanting Tiara to try to grab her, try to do something about it, and she was not able to. And a great majority of this matchup was mat maneuvers and grounded maneuvers by Shafir, winning the matchup after submitting her opponent with the Mother's Milk sleeper hold. As we're backstage with Angelico and Serpentico speaking about their matches that they had earlier, and Serpentico suggests to Angelico that he go for the Pure Championships, considering he had such a great performance in his first Pure Rules match. And Angelico thinks about it for several moments and finally does issue a challenge to Lee Moriarty. So we will see what happens there. Jacoby Watts and Nick Camarado versus Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange 2.0. It has been a while since we have seen them in Ring of Honor. Jacoby Watts suggests that they all join together and that they can be formed to 4.0, which, kind of a joke, but 2.0 did not appreciate it and immediately attack after that. Once the bell rings, Camarado and Ange are the first two legal competitors, and again, an extremely quick matchup with 2.0 using a lot of this time hitting double team maneuvers and finishing the match with a double DDT. As now we get to it was a fast-paced match, but a lengthy match to say. Tony Nese versus Lio Rush. This was announced last week after Tony Nese wants a title shot, considering everybody else gets title shots, and board of directors member Paul White said, if you win your match with Lio Rush, he would consider it. So, will he have to consider it after a win? Spoiler alert, Lio Rush wins. But Nese attacks early, and smart Mark Sterling even joins in when the referee is not looking. This is what a majority of this matchup was Nese and Mark Sterling attacking Rush. This changes once Rush dives to the outside, taking out Sterling, and then he dives to the outside once again, this time taking out Nese. Then once back in the ring, he lands a springboard cutter and final hour to win the matchup. As now we get to our main event. The grand prize, the match I was looking forward to for a week. Ring of Honor World Championship match. Mark Briscoe versus the Beast Mortos. A great matchup. Recommend. Mortos lands a drop kick after the Code of Honor, and then Mark hits a drop kick, this one to the outside. Both counter one another. It's suplex attempts. Mortos targets the neck of Mark, however, the champion fights back with a dive to the outside, another one with the assistance of a steel chair, and one more, this one being a corkscrew moonsault off of the top rope. Mortos hits a pop-up Samoan drop that gets a 2 count, and another 2 count after a massive backbreaker is landed. Mark lands a Spicoli driver, but Mortos moves out of the way of the Froggy Bow attempt, and then Mark moves out of the way of Mortos' corkscrew moonsault attempt. He hits a Froggy Bow, but it only gets a 1 count, and he has to land a big lariat and Jay Driller to retain his World Championship, ending off this 78th episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling. A great main event, a good opening matchup, some good matchups sprinkled in between. I don't want to waste y'all's time anymore because, like I said, All In is this weekend. Check out my predictions for the event. I should have my I almost said WWE 2K24, but WWE 2K24 WCW, my GM mode, uploaded tomorrow. It is already filmed. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your weekend or whenever you're watching this video. You like it, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one because I'm out.